You know that feeling when you're trying to speak English and it feels like there's this little translator working overtime in your head.
Yeah, absolutely. So many people experience that.
Well, you're definitely not alone. And the really cool thing is we found some, well, genuinely helpful step-by-step ideas to start sort of bypassing that translator.
Right, to get you thinking directly in English.
Exactly.
We've been digging into a fantastic YouTube video transcript. It's specifically aimed at people just starting out with English, which is great.
Mm.
And our goal in this deep dive is really to pull out the most effective strategies, the ones that are actually easy to implement.
Things you can actually do.
Yes.
Yeah.
We want to help you shift from that conscious, sometimes clunky translation to just more naturally thinking in English.
Absolutely. Forget about, endless grammar rules for just a second. This is about making English feel more intuitive, like part of your daily life.
So where do we start?
Okay, so the first really practical tip from our source is start with simple thoughts. Let's unpack this a bit.
What's interesting here is how it taps right into building that foundation. The source emphasizes consciously thinking about just the everyday stuff you do.
Right.
How might someone actually, start weaving this into their day? Can you give us a sense of that?
Yeah, totally. Think about those little mental notes you make. Instead of thinking, I don't know, in your native language, need to go to the supermarket, just try thinking, I need to buy groceries.
Simple switch.
Or maybe as you're making coffee, just narrate it inside your head in English. I am pouring hot water. The source even highlights just naming things around you. Table, chair, window.
Sounds almost too basic, maybe.
But that's the point.
Yeah.
It's meant to be super accessible.
Okay. And what if you hit a word you don't know? Like for something common.
Good question. The source says, look it up. Right then, if possible. If you're thinking about your cup, but you don't automatically think cup or mug, that's the perfect moment to find the English word.
Makes sense.
And the source really stresses making this a consistent habit. Every time you think of something, make that active effort. Connect it to the English word. It helps build your internal English dictionary,
From the ground up, yeah. It probably feels a bit slow at first.
Yeah.
A bit deliberate.
Oh, definitely. It might feel like a mental exercise initially.
But what's the upside? What's the encouragement here? It gets easier. The transcript is really reassuring about that. With consistent practice, those simple English thoughts, they start becoming automatic. Less effort needed.
It just starts to happen.
Exactly. It'll just happen. Okay, so moving on, the next tip kind of expands on this idea. It's about using English all day long.
Right. Creating that sort of mental immersion, even if you're not actually living in an English-speaking country.
Yeah.
What are some specific ways the source suggests doing this? Maybe some fun ones. Oh, there are some really enjoyable ideas here. For, staying informed, it suggests trying to read news in English. News can be tough, though.
True. But it points out that lots of websites and apps actually offer news in simpler English, specifically for learners.
Okay, that's helpful.
Then there's the really engaging stuff, music and movies. The idea is to actively listen for words, maybe phrases, in songs you like.
Focusing on the chorus, maybe, where things repeat.
Exactly. Good call. And for movies or TV shows, how does it suggest using subtitles?
Subtitles. Always a big question.
Well, the source suggests a smart progression. First, maybe watch with subtitles in your own language, just so you get the story.
Understand what's going on.
Then switch to English subtitles. That helps you link the spoken words with how they're written.
Okay.
And the ultimate goal, eventually, is no subtitles at all.
Wow, okay. That's the aim.
Yeah. And the source also mentions just paying attention to how people talk naturally in those shows. Which kind of leads into that technique you mentioned earlier, shadowing. Can we dive into that a bit more?
Absolutely. Shadowing. So it's basically listening to someone speaking English, could be from a movie, a podcast, whatever.
Right.
And you immediately repeat what they're saying, almost like you're their echo.
Okay.
The key thing is trying to match their rhythm, their intonation, not just the words.
The music of the language.
Exactly. And beyond media, the source also encourages thinking about your daily schedule in English. What am I having for lunch? What time's my meeting?
Little internal planning sessions?
Yeah. And even having little chats with yourself in English. Asking and answering simple questions about what's around you, like the weather or something.
So the underlying idea seems to be making English a constant presence, almost subconscious, even in tiny ways.
Precisely. And the source really hits on finding enjoyment in it. The more you engage in ways you find fun, the more likely you are to stick with it.
And that consistency is what really counts, isn't it?
Totally. That's what leads to real progress. Okay, moving on. Tip number 3. This one might feel a little weird at first, but it's apparently very effective.
Uh-oh. What is it?
Practice speaking out loud, even when you're totally alone.
Ah, yes. The talking to yourself tip? I can see why people might feel self-conscious.
Right. The source totally gets that it might feel a bit strange, maybe even silly.
But why is it so important then?
It emphasizes how valuable it is. Speaking aloud helps, solidify the connection between your thoughts and actually saying the English words.
Physically practicing.
Yeah, it's practicing the mechanics. Plus, the more you do it, the more natural it starts to feel.
Yeah.
And crucially, you build confidence for when you do speak with others.
Okay, makes sense. So what kind of things does it suggest saying? What are the exercises?
Really simple stuff again. Describing what you're doing right now. I am washing the dishes. I am opening the window.
Narrating your life.
Kind of. Or you can pretend you're having a conversation. The source even suggests talking to your reflection.
In the mirror. Okay.
Yeah. Introduce yourself or just talk about your day so far.
And there was another idea in there, too, about picking a topic.
Oh, right. Choose something you know well, something you enjoy talking about, your favorite hobby, movie you love, whatever. Just talk about it out loud in English for a few minutes. Describe why you like it, what's interesting about it. The goal is just practicing articulating your thoughts clearly.
Okay. And what if you get stuck on a word while you're doing this alone?
Ah, good point.
Yeah.
The advice is don't let it stop you.
Keep going.
Yeah. Try to talk around the word, explain what you mean, just keep the flow going. You can always look it up later.
Right. Look it up afterwards and maybe use it next time.
Exactly. The main benefit here is building that fluency muscle, that confidence. And you can do it anywhere, anytime.
Very practical. Okay, so the next tip shifts focus a bit towards learning common phrases. Why is that specifically helpful for thinking in English?
Well, think of it like building a mental toolkit, right? Ready-made chunks of language. When you know common phrases, you don't have to build every single sentence from scratch. That takes time, mental energy.
And often leads you back to translating word for word.
Exactly. These phrases allow for quicker, more automatic responses. They cut down that feeling of having to translate constantly.
The source gave some really practical examples for different situations, didn't it?
Oh, yeah, really useful ones. Like ordering coffee. I'll have a coffee, please.
Standard.
Meeting someone. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
Could you repeat that or even just, sorry?
Essential stuff.
And of course, the politeness essentials. Thank you. You're welcome. Excuse me. And crucially, for learners, the phrase, how do you say this in English?
Ah, yes, the meta phrase.
Yeah.
Very important. What about things like travel or directions?
Yeah, super practical ones like, where is the nearest train station? Or how much does this cost?
Right.
The core idea the source emphasizes is that having these ready to go in your memory makes thinking in English in real time much easier.
Because your brain has these pre-made units, it can just grab.
Exactly. They're like mental shortcuts. The advice is to start with just a few relevant ones and actively try to use them. Daily. Even in your solo practice.
Got it. Which actually leads us nicely back to that technique we mentioned, shadowing. The source really highlights this one, doesn't it, for spoken English and thinking?
It does. We touched on it, but let's really get into the details of how to do it effectively.
Okay.
So, as the source describes it, you listen to a native speaker and you immediately repeat exactly what they say.
Right after them.
Yeah. Aiming to mimic everything. Pronunciation, intonation, rhythm. Like being their vocal shadow.
So what's the main benefit of doing that kind of close mimicking?
It's apparently incredibly effective for just internalizing the natural flow, the music of spoken English. You start to get a real feel for how native speakers link words, where they put the stress. The source says start short clips, videos, podcasts at your level.
Keep it manageable. And what about repetition? Does the source mention that?
Oh yeah, repetition is key. It suggests listening to and repeating the same sentences or short bits multiple times.
Drill it in.
Exactly. It helps really solidify those sounds, that natural rhythm, in your own speech. It's not just about the words, it's training your mouth and ears.
Makes sense. Now, the source then shifts gears a bit, emphasizing actually talking with people.
Yes, super important. All the solo practice is valuable, no doubt. But the source really stresses that having actual conversations is essential.
Why? What does that add?
It makes your English feel natural, it builds real confidence, and importantly, it gets you comfortable with making mistakes.
Which are inevitable, right? Part of learning.
Totally normal and necessary.
So, what specific ways does the source suggest finding people to talk to?
It recommends starting with people you might already know who speak English, or looking for online English conversation groups.
Okay.
Even short, regular chats can make a huge difference. And if you don't have people nearby,
Yeah.
it points to all the online platforms out there. You can find language partners literally all over the world.
That sounds like a fun way to learn, too. Connect with different cultures.
Exactly what the source says. And if you do have opportunities locally,
It suggests looking for, local English-speaking clubs or events, maybe related to your hobbies.
you got it. The fundamental message is just use your English actively. In real life, that's what really cements your ability to think and speak more fluently.
And confidently. Okay, so the final tip from the source is a bit more inward-looking. It's about regular reflection. Why is that important?
Yeah, reflection. The source suggests taking just a few moments each day. Either write down some thoughts in English or even record yourself talking.
Like a mini English diary.
Exactly. Super short. The examples it gives are wonderfully simple, like, today I went to the park. It was sunny. I felt happy.
Okay, basic stuff.
Or maybe, today I learned 3 new words. I tried to use one. Something like that.
And what are the main benefits of doing this consistently?
Several things. First, you get to track your own progress. You'll probably notice yourself starting to use more words, maybe more natural sentences over time.
Seeing the improvement. That's motivating.
Definitely. And if you record yourself, that's a great way to check your own pronunciation, how smoothly you're speaking. Self-assessment.
Okay. The source also mentions setting small goals during this reflection time.
Yeah, setting little goals helps keep you focused and motivated. Maybe today your goal is just to use one new phrase you learned.
Or speak for a minute without stopping too much.
Perfect example. The source frames it as a really positive way to end your day. Acknowledge your effort. Actively build your skills.
So when we boil all these practical techniques down, what are the really core takeaways for someone wanting to think and speak English more easily?
I think the biggest message is that it's a gradual thing. It's built on small, consistent actions. You need patience.
And be kind to yourself, right?
Absolutely. Be patient, be kind to yourself, celebrate those small wins, Every little step forward counts.
And try to make it enjoyable, not stressful.
Yes. Language learning should be engaging, rewarding. The source really encourages integrating these things into daily life, staying motivated, tracking progress.
And just keeping at it. Consistent effort is the key.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for joining us for this deep dive into these really practical tips. We hope these insights from the source material give you a clear roadmap.
Yeah, a way to start incorporating that English thinking into your everyday routine.
What's really insightful, I think, is how these seemingly small actions can really add up over time.
Compound interest for your brain, leading to real lasting improvements in how you think and communicate in English.
Okay, so here's a final thought for you, the listener, to really chew on. Now that you've got these actionable techniques, what's one simple English thought you can consciously make, like right now? And how might that tiny act be the very first step in really shifting your daily thinking patterns? Something to consider.